Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Frank Bruni, an op-ed columnist with the New York Times, and I'm here with my colleague, David Firestone, a member of the Times editorial board in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Democratic National Convention. We've been having a series of these chats in cooperation with Google with voters around the country, and today is our fourth and last one. We've assembled a panel of 7 voters from around the country, all of whom have had interesting and sometimes painful experiences in what is sometimes called the Obama economy. Obviously, the economy is perhaps the #1 issue in this election. So we're going to hear from these people who are of varying political persuasions from different states about their experiences in the economy and what it leads them to believe about the election and how it might influence the way they vote. We have one couple from Hawaii that has had a generally positive experience, and will bring that perspective to bear on the conversation. Without further ado, I'd like them all to introduce themselves, and then David and I will be asking them questions. Tim, would you begin by saying hello to everybody?
Hi, how you doing? My name is Tim Weldon. I'm from New York. I choose, however, not to identify with any political affiliation. However, I have been a part of the Occupy movement. I've been or underemployed for about 3 years.
Sue, would you say hello to everybody?
Hi, everybody. My name is Sue Hoffman, and I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida. I lost my job in July of last year, so it's been over a year, and I'm still looking. I worked in financial investments.
Thanks, Sue. Steve, would you say hello to everybody?
Good evening, America. My name is Steve Stapleton. I'm from Akron, Ohio, and I'm a Democrat. I lost a job in retail I had for 22 years, 8 months last year. It took me a year and 3 months and applying for about 200 jobs to replace that job, and I just started a new job yesterday in the natural gas drilling industry.
Thanks, Steve. Reagan?
Hi, my name is Reagan Bird. I'm a Democrat from Aurora, Colorado. And after graduating college with my undergraduate degree, I was unemployed for about 2 years. And then I recently became employed as an administrative assistant yesterday, actually.
Thanks very much. Leah and Mark from Hawaii.
Good morning or good afternoon to you on the East Coast. My name is Mark Bernstein. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm a Democrat. I'm an attorney here in Honolulu, where I have resided for over 30 years.
Leah Bernstein. I am a Democrat and a president of an independent records company here in Hawaii.
Thank you. And last but not least, not to get too alliterative on you, Larry.
Hi, I'm Larry Firestone. Right now I'm in New York, but a registered independent voter out of Colorado. I'm a franchise executive, but have been on the employment roller coaster since 2007, but did get a job 3 weeks ago.
So you've been unemployed for about a year, as you said, and you're pretty angry with the Obama administration. Can you talk a little bit about what you think the administration should have done to help you and to help people like you?
Well, they've claimed they created more jobs, but I haven't seen much job creation there. And I believe when I was laid off, my company told me the reason they were cutting staff was because of government regulations. The government always wants this, and the company said it was costing them money, so they kept laying off people.
Steve, if I understand correctly, over the last couple of years before you found the job you just found, you applied for 200 or more jobs, is that right?
Most of the jobs, yes, I did apply on the internet. Many of the jobs you try to get nowadays, you just can't walk into a facility and apply with a pen and paper like you used to. You've got to get on the internet. Many frustrations with that, with either no answer or answers that I didn't feel were sufficient for the qualifications that I held. In some cases, promises were made to veterans like myself about companies that were looking for folks to do jobs with no experience, but there were form letters that went out after those job applications were made online, just basically denying, turning you down almost immediately. So it's been very stressful.
And Reagan, you supported Obama last time. Do you think that things are bad enough at this point that you would consider switching parties and voting for Mitt Romney?
No, because ultimately Romney's policies don't appeal to me at all. The things he supports don't appeal to me at all. I don't support the cutting of social safety nets that really assisted me during the 2 years that I was unemployed, and I think are essential for getting everyone back on track. So I'm disappointed with Obama, but I'm hopeful that he's going to listen to voters like me and have some make some better choices in the next election, but I certainly wouldn't consider switching parties.
Mark and Leah, could you tell us a little bit about what you both do for livings? And I believe you feel the economy, the Hawaiian economy, has some lessons for the national economy. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, I'm a commercial lawyer here in Hawaii. We have seen since January of 2009, when the economy came to a whisker's hair of falling off a cliff, a steady, slow increase in economic activity, both here in Hawaii and across the country. In Hawaii, we have an economy which has grown much better than I think the national economy. We are having a record year in tourism, which is our principal economic engine. Things are going quite well here, and we're having a slow, steady upturn in terms of employment and economic activity, and the slower and steadier our economic incline is up, the slower it will be on the other side. Boom and bust is not what we want. We want a nice, steady, slow increase. What we've had is obviously terribly frustrating to people around the country because, we watch so much television and we want the problem to occur at 8:02 and we want it to be solved at 8:28. But life is not television.
It's very interesting to see in this kind of a environment where our primary economic engine is tourism. Other than that, it's military. But you can see when the downturns have happened from the Gulf War to the present, you can see that Waikiki is empty. And then it slowly fills back up again. Now, if you walk down Kalakaua Avenue in Waikiki, you will see teams of people. These are middle-class people that are able to fulfill a dream and come to Hawaii on vacation. So we see the economy getting a little bit better.
Larry, you've had a lot of time to think about the economy over the last couple of years as you've been unemployed. Do you think the government needs to take a bigger role in getting the economy revived again, or do you think it's time to step back, as Republicans suggest, and let the free market and the business world take over?
Oh, I wish I had a positive to that, but it's almost like if you tried to get both sides to come to a middle and do a little of both, that might be able to solve a lot of the issues. I just don't see that happening even for the next 4 years. I am employed again, thankfully, but it's been a roller coaster since before Obama took office, and a lot of other things had taken place. I agree with the fact that what happens is we think problems should be solved tomorrow. They just can't be. But until we get to a point where politicians come to the middle of a table and talk, we're no place for at least another 4 years, no matter who gets in office.
I might suggest, though, that also one of the obstacles is not business or the government, but it's consumer demand. I think that all businesses would definitely provide jobs as well as services if the demand was there, but consumption has changed since the Great Recession of 2007-8. And I think that that's one of the big problems that is either being pointed at, being blamed on government right now. If the consumers aren't buying, I'm not going to provide any more products. And I think that many business people will agree with that.
Well, one thing I did...
If I could just jump back in quick, I think one of the things in response to what you're saying there about consumer demand is that wages have to be high enough, and you have to have living wages for people to be buying things and working with things. I think that's one of the things that we're seeing a lot of now is that since the 70s, real wages have been going down while cost of living has been going up. And when you mentioned the recession of 2007, 2008, I'm amazed. I don't understand where there's the end of that, 2007, 2008. As far as I see it, we're still smack dab in the middle of a recession. Because there's a lot of people sitting here talking about jobs and needing jobs. I don't have a job right now. I've been looking for 3 years. 200 applications. I've probably put in easily 400 to 500 applications in the last 3 years. But the jobs aren't out there. And obviously, my experience, I will certainly say, is a little bit different. I'm not a standard employee. I spent a lot of time abroad. I work in international development. I work on post-conflict reconstruction. So I'm not a typical worker here applying for jobs in this country. But at the same time, this recession is real. We're still smack dab in the middle of it. And I hate to say that I don't think that it's I mean, just the way that this conversation in the first couple of minutes has been framed is really kind of I really struggle with, in the sense that we're talking about the same polarized same situations, the same tired political debate that we always have in this country. It is bigger than Republicans and Democrats. I want more options. I want other things out there.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Let me ask you this. Assuming we could get past that partisan gridlock, from what you said, I gather you'd like to see them raised. You'd like to see Congress raise the minimum age. Can you name a couple of other concrete things that you think Washington could do to begin improving the economy right now?
Well, I think you're jumping to an assumption about the minimum wage with that one, because that assumes that Congress could function. My view of it is that we're looking at, we don't live in a democracy right now. The electoral college system is not functioning, it's not working. I specifically, who I vote for living in New York, does not matter. It'll go 60% Democrat in this state, and I can vote for whoever I want. And there's nobody here politicking. There's nobody here doing any of that. So to me, electoral reform is the cornerstone of what we have to do. We have to get the money out of politics. We have to get corruption out of politics. Governmental corporate greed is smack dab in the middle of everything that we're doing right now. Corporate personhood, all of these types of situations are not leading to empowering individuals, empowering communities, and they're not bringing about economic and social justice. So to me, I want to see 2 rounds of an election. I want to see a situation where money is not dictating things. I want to see one person, one vote, not $1, one vote. So, that to me is what's important.
So when you listen to the debate on TV and you hear the conventions, there's a lot of talk about tax cuts. There's a lot of talk about the role of government. Does this actually relate to the life you're living? Is there a subject that you want to hear addressed that is just not coming up at all?
Well, about taxes, believe it or not, they tax unemployment. And I think that's crazy because, you know, in Florida it's not very much because it's always been low here, and they tax your unemployment, so I have to pay taxes there. And that really bothers me a lot, and I don't like it.
Reagan, if I understand correctly, you voted for Obama in 2008, correct?
Yes.
And you are poised to or inclined to vote for him again, is that right?
Correct.
What do you think he can do if he's given another term that will address your very real economic frustrations?
I think I would like to see him be more hardline, I guess, with Congress. I mean, he has recently tried to propose, you know, his own separate budget and to be more active with that, because I think he's trying to court voters like myself. But I think it's really not in terms of specific policies. I know there's certain things I want to see maintained, like the social safety net, like unemployment. There's a certain amount of government investment in infrastructure that he's doing that I want to see happen in terms of specific policies. But what I really think he needs to do is just be a lot more tougher, a lot more firm about communicating what his values are as a Democrat are, and really contrast himself with Republicans, which he did not do in the first 4 years of his presidency. And I think that harmed him with voters like me, because there was too much compromise and not enough standing up for what his differing values were. And I think that's what I want to see him do, and really try to stand up for voters like myself.
Steve, I was glad to hear that you recently found a job. Obviously, there are a lot of people who are still looking for them. Do you think the government needs to do more to provide training, to provide new options for people who might find that their old kinds of jobs just don't exist anymore?
Well, the government is doing some things. One of the things that I found out recently was that the Veterans Administration, being a veteran, like I talked about before, they started a new program in July of this year to fund folks who wanted to obtain training in different areas, maybe not in their same career field, but were in high demand jobs. They would pay, I think it's somewhere around $1,400 a month for you to go to school, learn that trade, and obviously if it's a high demand job, you shouldn't have a whole lot of difficulty in finding a job. But one of the other things I wanted to point out is that, yes, we do get a lot in the blame game about the Democrats and the Republicans, but what I did during my year and 3 weeks of being unemployed, I went out and did some things on my own. Instead of waiting for somebody to give me something, I went out and started a business online, which allowed me to continue to pay my bills and still look for a job. So I did not lose anything. I gained in some respects. I think there needs to be more of that. I mean, if you look back, the way democracy works, you know, the way the market works, you have to provide something that someone wants, whether it's your labor or whether it's a service or a product. So I went out and started providing products. So that generated an income for me. So I didn't necessarily have to depend solely on the government for that.
Larry, we're at the Democratic convention, obviously, and at this convention and at the Republican one, we've heard a lot of big and beautiful words. Are you hearing the economic specifics you need to make a decision about who to vote for? And if not, how are you going to make that decision?
Well, I don't really think that the conventions are that avenue, because it's just a lot of talk and a lot of great speeches, some bad speeches, some empty chairs to speak to. But overall, I need some substance, and I'm not getting that. And maybe I'm cynical, but I realize if I vote for Obama, I'm going to get a lame duck in a Republican Congress, which means 4 more years of nothing. If I get the Romney's ticket gets in, we're going to have a Senate that won't allow anything to go in. So all I want to do, I'd love them to debate. Let's get through the conventions, which should, in my mind, be a day and a half. Let's get it over with. And let's start talking about...
You've outlined 2 different scenarios for gridlock. How do you make a decision then? Is it Obama or Romney for you, or are you saying you're going to wait to hear how they do in the debates?
No, I know right now where I'm voting. What I'd like to make sure is that as possible, the members of that party get in as well. So maybe we can change a few things. If it's just going to be
a secret from us, how are you voting?
Oh, I'll vote for Obama. There's no question.
I thought you were being a big tease here.
Oh, I thought you were going to wait till the end, and I tell you. But no, I will vote for Obama because I cannot see Mitt Romney running this country. Obama, I'm willing to give 4 years, but he needs support. And that's congressional and senatorial. Without that, he can stand up and say to the public, look, I'm doing all I can, but nobody's supporting me, no one's helping me, and I'll see you all in 2016 when I give the next speech.
Which is sad, because we're sitting here with our politicians acting like they're in junior high school or middle school, and I didn't like that the first time around.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, but I hated middle school the first time around, and we have a bunch of people, Mitch McConnell sitting there saying we will do anything to defeat this president, not speaking to his constituents at all, or of his
let's be honest, that started 4 years ago when he first went in office.
Absolutely.
Okay? Yeah. They didn't give him a chance to succeed from day one. All people did was, oh, he won, we got to do everything to get him out. They didn't even give him an opportunity to succeed or, to let any of his plans work that he generated. So I was very upset with that. And still am. I mean, because it's just childish.
So what do we do to change this, though? That's my real question: is how do we change this system?
You got to get the money out. You got to get. Somebody said something about getting the money out of the box. Yeah. There's too much money. Although those of us that are just trying to make it, we know what money's about. We know what it takes, and we know that
some of our taxes are going to go to political campaigning, and I'm for that. For that, but we have to understand that a piece of our tax dollar is going to go towards getting us the information we need to make an intelligent choice when these elections come around.
Sue, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Sue, you live in a swing state, Florida. I'm sure every time you turn on the TV, you see a commercial from some politician or another or some super PAC. Have you ever heard an ad that actually had a message that really appealed to you, that really made you stop and listen and think, whoa, somebody actually knows what they're talking about?
No, I think they're just hype. I really don't like the commercials I've seen. Some of them are really nasty, and I get offended by that. But I have never seen anybody give me substance. They say, well, I'm going to do this, but I got to see the proof. The ads are just ads, just to try and trick people, I think.
So they're not persuasive as far as you're concerned?
Not in our house.
And I'd like to ask you, if I can just ask Sue a quick question as well. Sue, I'm hearing everyone describe a really profound disconnect between voters in Washington. Do you feel there are politicians out there, any of them or many of them, who have any sense of what your life and your struggles are like?
No, because this is what happened. I lost my job. My husband hasn't worked for about 4 years, and we're living on one unemployment check, $275 a week minus taxes. But we were smart. I listened to Susie Orman when I was working. We socked money away, and we saved. So I have a nest egg. So we're able to pay our bills. But what I did was, after I got laid off, I cashed out my 401k. I paid off my mortgage. So we have no bills except normal bills for the house. So I'm debt-free, and I'm proud of it.
Very lucky, too.
But I'm income poor. That's the problem.
The disconnect, Frank, is more than just a disconnect between us and politicians. We have a disconnect between what we say, what we do, and how it affects what happens. We're the people who cry about the loss of the mom and pop store while we go to Costco and Walmart. We're the people who complain about the loss of the American consumer goods manufacturing sector while we go buy products from another country.
So are you saying you think that in our own behavior we're as culpable for our economic problems as the federal government is?
Absolutely.
Nobody compromises and nobody sacrifices it. That's the bottom line to this.
Yeah, we are, we won't look in the mirror and tell ourselves the truth. I expect politicians to lie to me because they're engaged in selling. And we all know that selling doesn't have much to do with the truth. People don't sell cars by telling you this is a reasonably good car that'll get you to work and back. It's the greatest, fastest, most wonderful, fabulous thing in the world. And by the way, I ran the marathon in 2 hours. I mean, I expect that, but when we lie to the mirror, my mother always taught me the worst lie you can tell is the one you tell to the mirror, because after all, who are you trying to fool? And we're trying to fool ourselves so often by not telling ourselves the truth and not being truthful, with ourselves and our own conduct. And we have to get rid of that disconnect.
Reagan, let me ask you something similar. You're an Obama supporter, but do you feel that he is actually addressing the concerns that you care about? Is he pandering to you? Is he telling the truth? Is he speaking about the kinds of issues that the people you talk to really care about?
Certainly, every politician panders. I mean, there's no incentive not to pander. You have to talk to every different constituency that you're trying to grab and tell them to some extent what they want to hear. But the reason why I'm an Obama supporter and why I listen to him is because there is a distinct difference in values between him and Mitt Romney, or him and Republicans in general. I think his lack of success had a lot to do with Congress, and again the deadlock. The gridlock that we talked about. With these past 4 years, and no one wanting to compromise in anything, because again, what's your motivation? You can get reelected, you don't have to make policy to get reelected and maintain your job as congressman. Like in the American president, when he says, I was more concerned about keeping my job than doing my job, that's exactly what Congress does. That's exactly what every politician does. So the reason I want to vote for Obama is because there is a certain perspective that he has, and about people like me that I think Mitt Romney has no clue how to even begin to formulate policy directed towards people like me who are low-income people of color, who are having struggles in daily life, economically, socially, for a lot of different things. I think Obama at least can visualize the struggles of those people and can make effective policy for people like us.
It's interesting to me. We've been talking for a while, and I don't think anyone's mentioned or hasn't said much about the deficit or the debt. I bring it up because if you listen to the Romney-Ryan ticket and Republicans, they say we can't have a serious discussion about our economic future without talking just as seriously about cutting spending and the deficit and the debt. Steve, what do you think of that? Do we need to get the debt and the deficit under immediate control lest we have a worse economy 4, 8, and 12 years from now?
Well, all of us have heard the argument. We have to, those of us that are trying to make it, we have to balance a checkbook. Why can't the government do the same thing? Right. Why is it that they get all these freebies to do nothing? And it continues, and people keep talking and talking about it, and you see no change. They still get all the benefits. They're not doing anything. They're overpaid, underworked, if you ask me.
Yes.
I mean, and those of us that are out here, we're working hard just to pay our mortgages.
I think another thing to come into place with this too is that the analysis of this sort of power constraint that they have over the dialogue, pushing us in certain directions with how we talk about the debt. It's not a one-sided street where you can say, well, we either have to cut spending, and that's it. You have to look at it in a non-ideological stance where you're analyzing specific lines and specific things and saying, well, we should raise some taxes here and we should not there, and we should cut things here, and we should do a lot of different nuanced things. I mean, we spend more on the military than the 25 next countries combined, and we also don't spend nearly as much on social services per capita as all those countries.
The military is a jobs program. I mean, there is no justification for their spending. There's a lot of waste in the military that is justified solely because if you cut military spending here, then they're going to cut jobs in Virginia, and no congressman wants to do that. So none of it makes sense logically, other than trying to maintain spending at the level that it is because that is what the system allows to happen.
Yes.
Mary, a lot of people are saying they want to see these kinds of issues produce a compromise between Obama and his Republican opponents. Others say that they really want to see Obama confront the Republicans, take them on in a really forceful way, and refuse to compromise. From your point of view, do you have a preference? Do you really want to see that kind of confrontation to take on these what the Republicans are saying?
All we have now is confrontation. What I'm looking for is just people to talk. Maybe get the top 3 Democrats and Republicans who actually want to work with each other and let them start a dialogue. Confrontation doesn't get anything. I mean, it's just been one after another, and if you keep this up, again, I say 2016 before we do this all over again.
Hey, Larry, I want to stick with you for a second. I'm really struck by the scope of voter cynicism we're hearing today about politicians. And in fact, I'd encourage viewers to go back and look at one of these New York Times Google chats we did about the subject of bipartisanship and all that, because there was a lot of voter cynicism there too. Larry, can you name 1, 2, maybe 3 politicians whom you admire, who you think put the country ahead of their own self-preservation?
I wish I could give you the names. I'd probably get them on talk shows with a 15-minute soundbite. I don't know them offhand, but I've listened to a couple of Republicans and I've listened to a few Democrats. All want to work together, but their party won't let them. They hold them back. I will say one thing, though. There has been a new industry created from the conventions that I didn't mention, and had I known then what I know now, I would have become a fact checker. Because that's all we seem to do is check what everybody says, that it's lies or truth. We're still no place, and I wish I could name those politicians who would step up and actually get up and say, hey, let's change the tax codes. Let's get rid of all the loopholes. I know it's a bad, unpopular thing, and I'm willing to take the heat, but we have to do it.
There's a great deal of money in politics at this point. Some people say it's drowning out the kinds of conversations that you guys say you would like to hear. Sue, let me just ask you, do you think that there is just there's too much corporate money, too much business money at this point pouring in to allow the public a real chance to have a piece of that conversation?
There is too much money going in, and a lot of it's dirty money, money that you don't know who it comes from. I think they should give people that are unemployed a stimulus. Like, I'll take some. Send me $1 million or something. That would sure help me get started again.
And that's going to take raising taxes, though.
Hey,
that's okay. You know what? That's okay, though. We need, in some cases, we need to pay more taxes.
I agree.
I mean, but rewrite the code. They keep trying to do it. They talk about the flat tax. They talk about sales tax. Pick one.
Yeah. Well, they talk about sacrifice, too. And how are Mark and I going to sacrifice if Romney Ryan get in and we have more money to spend at the end of the year because our taxes will stay low? This is not a good thing for this country, and we need to get back to community. We keep forgetting that we're a community of people, and that's what we need to worry about at this point.
And we also need to actually look at what people do as opposed to what they say. We hear, Governor Christie speak of shared sacrifice, and when it comes to people in the upper, echelons of the economy of the United States, what is the sacrifice expected of us? We're expected to sacrifice by getting more money.
And no place to put it.
Mark, I'm sorry, I got to cut you off right there because we're almost out of time, and David and I are going to wrap it up. I want to thank all of you so much for being with us and for being so candid and sharing your stories. David, is this what you expected to hear from voters today, or are you hearing some things that surprise you?
I think that the level of disconnect that we're hearing is profound, and I think it's across both parties. It's across many economic classes, and the parties have not really learned to bridge that gap yet. They don't really know how to talk to people. The money that's being spent is, I think, in many ways going to waste because it's not persuading people one way or the other.
When I listened to these voters today, when I listened to the voters the other day when we were talking about bipartisanship, I just find myself getting extremely sad because it seems to me that a great many Americans feel the system is utterly broken. They've lost enormous respect for politicians as a class and often for individual politicians. And I don't hear anyone saying they can draw a path out of that. And I don't hear anybody expressing much hope.
Right. The fact that we have to have an army of fact checkers, as Larry mentioned,
right,
is an indication that, and I think that gets absorbed by people. They simply don't trust either side at this point. One side may be telling the truth more than others, but it's very difficult for ordinary voters to make that distinction, given the way democracy is conducted these days.
Do you have a feeling, it came up in this discussion, how little detail we've really gotten from both campaigns about their economic prescriptions? Do you have a sense for why we haven't heard more detail given the enormity of the problem?
I think they're very afraid that every detail is going to really annoy one constituency or another. If they talk about the poor, that's going to alienate the middle class, and perhaps vice versa. Tax cuts are extremely divisive. Everything is poll tested now, and they only talk about the issues that they think are going to have a more mass appeal, and they miss what people care about.
Is it not possible, though, I mean, given the cynicism out there, given the fact that voters are smart enough, they're well aware that they're not hearing detail, is it possible that the campaign that gets a little bold steps up and says, you know what, I'm going to put some flesh on the bones, even if it attracts flies, maggots, whatever? Is that campaign doing a smart thing and maybe putting themselves in a position to win?
I wish they would. I haven't seen any indication of that. I haven't seen it even in the congressional races. People are extremely afraid right now. I'm talking about politicians.
Right.
That one slip-up is going to get magnified through Twitter and the web and the advertising universe, and it will ruin them. And so they're incredibly cautious.
And so we have a campaign of extreme caution and extraordinary negativity. That ties up our discussion for today. I want to thank you all for joining us in this fourth and last chat with voters with Google in cooperation with the New York Times. We again thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll be watching the rest of the convention.
Thank you.